Chapter 6. Corpse Dumping Ground. We stopped the boat. This should be the most dangerous part of the water cave, but we couldn't just rush in if we weren't prepared. Uncle Three looked at his watch and said, "This corpse cave place is a place you can easily enter, but can't get out of. I've been a grave robber for a long time, but now this is the first time I've ever come to a place like this. I think it's possible that this cave contains something really strange." Panza interrupted in a low voice. "Crap, that goes without saying." Uncle Three glared at him and then continued, "But this is just the old man's side of the story. We have no way of knowing whether this cave can only be entered by the boatmen or not. If this cave really is a corpse cave," he stressed, "then there must be danger up ahead. As for what we'll encounter, we have no way of knowing that either. Maybe it'll be a dead-end kind of situation, and we won't know where the boat is going, or maybe hundreds of water ghosts will come to overturn our boat." Akwe sucked in a breath. "No way." In short, anything can happen. It's really bad luck for us to encounter so many dangers before we've even arrived in the tomb. But in any case, you can't be afraid of ghosts when robbing tombs. If you're afraid of ghosts, then you don't need to be a grave robber. Since we're doing this kind of job, it doesn't make sense not to encounter some strange things. Uncle Three motioned for Panza to take the double-barreled shotgun from his backpack. But now we have high-tech weapons in hand, which is much more advantageous than what our predecessors had back in the old days. If there really are water ghosts, it's also their bad luck. Seeing Akwe still trembling in fear, I said to Uncle Three, "Why does your rallying speech sound more like a ghost story? It looks like it actually had the opposite effect." Uncle Three loaded the shotgun. "This guy is humiliating me this time. I didn't expect him to be so useless. Before this guy came here, he was bragging like he was so strong." He passed the gun over to Poker Face and said to him, "You have 2 shots in total, and then you'll have to reload. These are all buckshot, so they have no power at a distance. Be sure to aim before you shoot." I had even won awards for skeet shooting when I was a child, so I picked one up. Uncle Three and Akwe held knives in one hand, while they continued to punt us forward with the folding shovels in their other hands. Panza, Poker Face, and I all held guns as we slowly moved towards the corpse dumping ground that was bathed in that green glowing light. Under the faint light from the miners' lamps, I found that the cave was getting bigger and bigger, and the green light was getting closer and closer. I heard Poker Face on the side say something in a foreign language, and then I heard Panza start cursing up a storm. Then I saw a scene that I will never be able to forget. When we reached the part of the cave with the green light, it suddenly became a huge natural cavern and the waterway became a river. The shallows on both sides of the waterway were full of rotting green corpses, but there was no way to tell whether they were human or animal. We could also see that the rows of skeletons closest to the innermost part of the cave were stacked very neatly, which seemed to indicate that someone had piled them up. The ones further out, however, were messy. This is especially so for the ones on the edge of the river. They were lying in various positions, and many of the corpses hadn't completely decomposed yet. Without exception, all of these corpses were covered in something like a gray film, which was tightly wrapped around them like plastic wrap. From time to time, a few huge corpse eaters would burst out of a few of the corpses. They were much smaller than the one on our boat, but they were still 4 or 5 times larger than ordinary ones. Some small corpse eaters wanted a piece of the pie, but as soon as they climbed onto the bodies, the big corpse eaters would eat them. Most of these bodies floated down from upstream and then ran aground again. Be careful, everyone. Look around and see if there's something strange. Look! The sharp-eyed Akwe pointed to one side of the cave wall. We all turned to look and saw a green crystal coffin vertically set into the cave wall. It looked like it was floating in midair, and there seemed to be a white-clothed female corpse inside, but it was too far away for us to clearly see. "There's another one there!" Panza pointed to the other side. And we saw that sure enough there was a crystal coffin in the same position on the other side of the cave wall, but this one was empty. Uncle Three sucked in a breath. "Where's the body?" "Master Three, there shouldn't be any zombies in this place, right?" Akwe asked. "Pay attention, all of you. If you'll see anything moving, don't ask questions and just shoot," Uncle Three said while looking around warily. At this time, we went around a bend of the river and bypassed a pile of bones. Akwe suddenly cried out in fright and fell down into the boat. The rest of us took a closer look and saw a woman in a dress made of white feathers. She had her back to us, and her long black hair fell all the way down to her waist. After seeing the adornments on her outfit, I could conclude that it was from the Western Zhou dynasty. I swallowed past a lump in my throat and said, "Here's the corpse." "Stop! Stop!" Uncle Three wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Akwe, get the black donkey hoof from the bag. This is probably a 1,000-year-old zombie, so grab the 1923 one. I'm afraid she won't accept a newer one." He repeated this twice, but Akwe still didn't move. When we looked back at him, we found that he was foaming at the mouth and twitching convulsively. Had it not been for the tense atmosphere, I would have laughed. "Panza, go get it! I deserve to get eaten by a zombie if I ever bring him with me again in the future." Uncle Three took the black donkey hoof and spat on both hands before saying, "Get a good look at Master Three's skills, dear nephew. This 1,000-year-old zombie is a rare sight. If I don't succeed, you can just shoot me in the head so I can die quickly and without pain." I pulled him back. "Are you sure you can handle this?" In fact, I wasn't particularly afraid. I had never encountered this kind of thing before, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this slender woman in plain clothes seemed a little sad. But in horror movies, things normally weren't as terrifying once the woman with long hair and white clothes turned around. That psychological effect was definitely at play here, so my heart was still beating very fast. At this time, Poker Face also pressed down on Uncle Three's shoulder and said, "Black donkey hooves are for zombies. I'm afraid this isn't a zombie. Let me do it." He took out a long object from his bag, which I knew was the dragonback item he had bought for my uncle before. After he loosened the cloth on the thing, I found that it was an ancient jet-black sword that appeared to be made from black iron. He slid the ancient blade across the back of his hand, and then stood at the bow of the boat and let it drip into the water. Just after the first few drops fell, there was a loud crash, and then all of the corpse-eaters came crawling out of the bodies and frantically retreating from our boat like they had seen a ghost. It didn't take long before Poker Face's hand was covered in blood. He pointed his bloody hand at the woman in white, who actually knelt down, much to our surprise. Poker Face then said to Uncle Three, "Go! Don't look back!" Although I really wanted to see what the woman looked like, I decided not to take the risk at the thought that I might look back and end up seeing a mummy's face. Uncle Three and Panza rowed desperately until we finally reached the smaller cave in front of us, which was similar to the cave we had initially entered. It seemed that this cavern was in the center of the mountain, and the waterway had only been created after both sides had been dug through. It eventually became a capillary-like structure with narrow entrances and exits on both sides. But even if the caves on both sides disappeared, the inside would remain dry. As we gradually moved into the grave robber's tunnel, we had to lower our heads again, but before entering the tunnel, I couldn't help but think that he had only said I couldn't look back, right? I could still look at the reflection in the water to see if she was still following us, since that technically didn't count as looking back. But after looking, I felt as if all of the air had been knocked out of my chest. In the water's reflection, I saw something lying on my back. I almost shouted and reflexively turned back to look, only to feel something hit me hard in the back of the head. Before I knew it, my vision went black, and I lost consciousness.